Okay, hey everybody. Since I've been sick with pneumonia, Adam has basically taken up, it's been over a month. Adam has basically taken up going to buy groceries. He's older than I, and he never, we met and married back in early 1980s, and he never really had to buy groceries. I did it myself. And then the years came, like, at the end of the 2010s, I think is when we started doing sometimes ordering groceries to be delivered, but especially during 2020 and 2021. And recently I noticed, because I have pneumonia, there's some things I forget to let him know, and I put it on my Walmart account, app. I put it on there on my cell phone. And sometimes I forget to tell him. I just need to just look and tell him, but I don't. And anyway, so I'll order them, have my stuff, delivered, a little extra stuff that I want, and that I forgot to tell him about. And it's about once a week, and it's usually only maybe like $40, $50, something like that. And one of the things I noticed is I never delivered for, I didn't like doing groceries. I thought I would, but, buying groceries, and when I was, doing deliveries, shopping deliveries, I didn't like it. I didn't do it very long. It was the place I went to, a lot of their stuff was expired. Yeah, they closed that place down. So that grocery store, I think a whole chains of them, several of them, but I never really cared for it. But anyway, but I never did anything for Walmart. Yeah, I mentioned getting over pneumonia. Anyway, but some of the things I wonder, because more recently, having it delivered from Walmart, I notice that when it prompts me to rate the last people, rate, R-A-T-E, the last delivery driver, how, the delivery, the whole thing, whatever the questions are, I think it's two different things. And I think it's whenever I go to make another order, or I go to, I'm not sure if it's when I think it's when I go to actually schedule it. I don't know. It's not the same day. It's like a week or, if I do it about a week, every week, so later. And I wonder if the delivery drivers understand that. If they know that, you might think it's one, person gave you, a negative review is the last person you went and delivered for. No, it could be somebody you did, a week or two, however long before then. You see what I'm saying? And I wonder about other ones, like, how does that work? Or other ones immediately? See, because I don't order, like, through DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats. I don't order any of those. I don't use Uber either. Or the other one, Lyft. I don't know if they even have Lyft around here. But whatever, I don't order stuff like that. So I really don't know. And I think I ordered once or twice, and that was enough. But Adam did once too. But anyway, and then I was thinking about that, and then I got to started thinking about what it used to be like when I was young, like in the 60s and 70s. I was born in the 60s, but so mainly like the 70s. What was it like to buy groceries? And I got stuck on that. What was it, how different it was. There was no this kind of, well, there was. I think people could, some people could order their groceries to be delivered. I think, like where I grew up, they had one grocery store, and it was owned by somebody, a local. There's a local man owned the store, and there was no, Walmart or any kind of, there was one other one, yeah, but there really weren't chain stores, grocery stores. There really weren't that many chain restaurants. So a lot of the stuff was mom and pop, and a lot of this stuff was so much better. Grocery shopping was so much better. Restaurants, so much better. It wasn't filled with sodium. I'm not saying all chain stores and chain restaurants are load down stuff with sodium, but whew, man, some of them do. And if I've been on a lower sodium for over a year, and I can taste it. It's kind of like I quit drinking anything with sugar in it when I was in my 20s. I'm 62. So I quit when I was 25 or 24, somewhere around there. Don't drink anything with sugar. And man, can I, if I go to a restaurant and order a diet soda, I don't even do that anymore because I don't drink caffeine. And usually these stores, they don't have caffeine-free diet. Restaurants and stuff like that, no. But the stores do, but the restaurants don't. Anyway, I can taste it. I can taste the sugar. It's like, what am I drinking? Syrup? And ugh. And I will chastise I will chastise politely the person who made the drink. I would say, it might not sound so nice. I say, you could really hurt somebody like that. You need to pay attention. Some people are diabetic. You can really hurt them like that. And sometimes I am. Because they really do need to know. You need to be where you are. When you are working, especially in a restaurant, you need to be there. You need to be paying attention. You don't just do something because you think, oh, that's what they want. I don't remember, there was a phase that people were like, they would fill in the blanks. They would think, like, you're talking and they interrupt you, and then they act on what they thought you were trying to say, and you haven't finished. I remember that. It was awful. It was like, no, keep your mouth sealed until the other person is finished speaking and says what they really need. Especially it was in doctor's offices and pharmacies. These can be very bad if you're not listening. And I just saw a pharmacist recently, and she was still that kind. Yeah, no, that's not good. So, yeah, I was going with my own flow, stream of consciousness. But I was thinking about the grocery shopping, like my mother, because I was thinking, I do this about once a week. I need to make a day. And I thought, well, usually it seems like it's Monday. But I should do it Tuesday. And the reason Tuesday is that's when my mother would do it. Then my dad. They had to do Tuesday. I don't know why. I guess it's the day before sales. I think the sales would come out. No, actually the newspaper came out on Tuesday. It was a once a week newspaper. And they had a big city next to it. Back then it was, thought of as a big city, but these days it wouldn't be. But for that town, I never mentioned what it was, but it is in Texas. They have once a week newspaper and sales. So maybe that's why they did it. It was Tuesday. But I think these days, places around here, they do it Wednesday. They start the new week. Then again, maybe they did it on Tuesday because they thought, oh, this stuff would be on sale. Whatever. Would be even cheaper because they want to get rid of it if they order too much. I don't know. Something motivated them to do it Tuesday morning. Like I said, first it was my mother. But my dad, before he died when he was 61. But before then, for years, he did the grocery shopping. And I think he knew my mom was having some problems with her memory. She had dementia for a long time. Seriously, a lot of years. And he passed away before she did. Quite a bit. 15 something years, I don't know. Anyway, buying groceries was a thing, you know. Even when we were in school, my mother, I think she suffered from agoraphobia. And back then they didn't talk about stuff like that, you know. It took a long while. I don't know how old I was before they even said she has, I don't know if they called it anxiety, or they just said she's a very nervous person, something like that. They also used to blame everything, a lot of things if women had, they would blame them on the change. And I remember me and my siblings, I have 4 siblings, we would say she really went through the change for a lot of time. What, starting in her 30s and ending when she had ending in her 50s, you know? And she had a hysterectomy in her 50s. But, you know, that they didn't, you would think they would talk about anxiety and not about the change. But no, back then that's how it was. You know, they didn't want to talk about people getting any kind of psychological help. And I went on to get my degrees in psychology and sociology. So, yeah, but anyway, I think she suffered from agoraphobia. And when me and my siblings were kids, she would have one of us, like, you know, each week, you know, change up. She had 5 kids, so she could do that. But she'd have us miss the first part of our school or the whole day. I think it was mainly the whole day. And to go with her in the morning and buy groceries, you know, for support, mental support, because she suffered from agoraphobia. I truly believe it. And so it was, you know, we were her familiar when she went. I suffered from agoraphobia myself, and I know how that was. It was awful. I did once when I was 28, and another time when I was 33. Then I got put on a medication for diabetes, and all that stuff went away. I mean, I'm not saying it would for everybody, but for me it did. Mine was diabetes. And I had, you know, extreme panic attacks and, you know, agoraphobia. And once I got on that medication, it was like, whoa, is this what most people feel like? You know, really. It was night and day. Night and day. But anyway, she did not, you know, she wasn't until later on in life she was put on that same medication I was on. Not long before she died, really. And but anyway, she didn't like going to grocery stores. She didn't like going anywhere. And I know she wouldn't drive on the highway, on the freeway. She barely liked to go anywhere at all. So, and she had to. My dad, you know, he worked. He was an accountant, actually. An accountant, but he didn't like it. He didn't like being boxed into, you know, an office. And he did it for a while, and then he said, nope, I want to be a salesman. And I guess that was his midlife crisis. But he did different things like carpentry. He was a cabinet maker. He did salesman. There was I don't think they still have it. It was called Gray Pet, a drink, you know, soda. And he delivered for a bigger soda and cheese and different things. He just wanted to be outside. He did not want to be indoors. But he was an accountant at first, so big difference. And anyway, going on my own flow. But all these memories come back. You know, I guess the older you get, the more the memories come back. You know, a lot of stuff triggers these memories, too. And, yeah, but it was so much easier back then, buying groceries. And you go to the store. delivery, you would think that would ease it up, but it doesn't really. Something about it, I make sure I, click it and make sure that it says no substitutions, because at first I wasn't doing that, and oh my goodness, people would substitute, people in the grocery stores with stuff that was, was like, oh, this is a horrible brand, and I just didn't like it. Of course, it could be that some other people really love it, but you get, particular. And I'm do the same thing, I guess. A lot of it was like groceries, which brand my mother bought. The ones that are still around. So, okay, anyway, I don't know if you see the rain on the windshield, but yeah, it rained today. But I was going with my own flow as usual, and I like it. I'm going to continue to do that. And I know people don't. A lot of people don't like to hear somebody just talking about stuff like this, and I really don't care. This is for me. Really, usually I used to say for me to vent, use it as a pressure release valve and vent about stuff that goes on, not keep it bottled up inside. I'm a firm believer in that. Don't, and it's not for everybody, but for me, And I used to say that, but it's just whatever I'm thinking about. Now, during this past month and a half, however long it was, that I had pneumonia, and it was from street. They were doing, the city was doing work on the sidewalks, and they had all that, concrete and all this stuff up in it was all in the air and dirt and everything. And then when I started getting over that, they came back out and worked on just across from here. We don't have it on our side, but an alley. And they worked on that, and it made it continue. I think I was pretty much over it, and it came back. And that's what the hospital said it was, pneumonia from that. A suspicion of pneumonia. So, the ER. I had to wind up going to ER. I could barely breathe and barely walk. But now I remembered I used to have that a lot when I was younger. So, once again, it's just different than when I was younger. It's just a little different. It's actually not as bad. It's just that the worst thing, the weirdest thing, was I couldn't take a shower very well. I had to get in bed and back out like that because I couldn't breathe in the shower. I would start like hyperventilating, like a panic attack. But it wasn't a panic attack. I had no panic attacks. No, it wasn't that. It was just, one of these doctors, the nurse, explained it to me, but she was pretty much wrong. It was pneumonia. And it wasn't the doctor of the hospital's doctors. Yeah. And then there is actually a suspicion among some of them that my problems all this time have not been congestive heart failure. It is pneumonia. Don't ask me. My doctor that, I don't want to name which kind and all that, for my rare health condition, I called today to schedule the test he wants me to take, and I asked what test from the person, the scheduler, and she told me, and I looked them up. One of them I've never even heard of, and that one is the one that these other doctors should have run. And there's always been the suspicions with doctors, not me. One of the doctors is suspicious of the specialist. Seriously, a doctor suspicious of a specialist. And now this one, I think he is too. Okay, see, there's something going on there. And not only that, but people from the insurance company seem to be suspicious of this one kind of, this specialty, not the two doctors I just mentioned, but these different doctors, and I don't like them. They're like used car salesmen. That whole stereotype of used car salesman. So the suspicion that, they're not doing things right. And one of them, with the insurance company, flat out told me that. So, Anyway, well, I did really go with the flow. I'm gonna wrap it up.